education in America today, and obviously education in America today is transforming quite a bit because of this Wuhan virus. With us this morning, a young man who knows a little something about this. He's Walter Blanks Jr., and he joins us from the American Federation for Children. Walter, good to have you on the show. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor to have you aboard this morning. Obviously, we talk about education. You're a young man. I'm looking at your picture here. I said, I wish I were that young again. But, you talk about growing up and school was very difficult for you. You were diagnosed early, I guess, with ADHD. You're already 2 grades behind in reading and math. Some people, as you said in your page here, said you'd be doomed, you become another statistic, but that turned around in a hurry. Talk a little bit about your experience and also your thoughts about school choice, because that is a big subject in America, and especially right now during a time where education is transforming because of this whole pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from the great state of Ohio, and the public school system here isn't very, very good. It echoes, across the country, but yeah, growing up, it was very difficult for me. Teachers saw me as a distraction in the classroom. And like you said, I was doomed to become another statistic. And so my family found out about the Opportunity Scholarship here in Ohio, and I attended a small private school where my education journey absolutely took off, right? I began to learn things that I had never learned before. And my learning and the ability to learn became something that I began to own and began to see, okay, well, how far can this thing go? Because who are we as a nation to tell children that they can achieve their wildest dreams and do whatever they set their minds to, but then don't equip them with the tools to do that? So then I graduated high school, which, I beat a statistic in my community right there, graduated college. And now I work full-time in D.C. fighting for kids to have the same opportunity that I did. And so fast forward to the RNC this week, and I wish the DNC last week, I wish they would put out a clear and comprehensive education plan, but, we're just going with what we have now. And the RNC, the past few nights, school choice has been a national conversation, and that's one thing that has not happened in the past. So very excited about that. But Tim Scott yesterday has a little bit of Democratic support. Congressman Lipinski has introduced the bill on the House side. So we're very, very excited to see both sides of the aisle coming together on this education issue and really trying to tackle, what education looks like in our country. Like you said, it's evolving quickly. And so now there's a real opportunity for Congress to step up and change the way that we see education in our country.
We're talking with Walter Blanks Jr. this morning of the American Federation for Children, an organization he's involved with. And you're a relatively young man right now, aren't you? I mean, you cover all kinds of bases. You're a young black man. You are a millennial. You got all these different things going on. So you're in the midst of an election right now where there's all kinds of special choices out there for you. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. Not just politically, right? Like you look at Netflix, you look at Hulu, you look at Disney Plus, you look at, our society. We're surrounded by change. I was birthed into the choice and change movement, right? And so my generation is used to having, essentially unlimited options. And so
right.
Why do we have all these options except for our education?
Now, you've called school choice the great equalizer, which I think is a great way of talking about that. Obviously, we don't want to see anybody stuck in schools or be immobile to get out of schools. And yet at the same time, there's the question about what do we do about the schools that are failing? Do we just give up on them? Do we let brick and mortar lay down around the country in terms of schools and leave others behind? What are your thoughts about that? That certainly has to be one of the things that I'm sure you've discussed somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I do believe that education is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are. If you have a solid education, you have a really good chance of making something of yourself in this country. But to answer the second part of that question, we've done, AFC has done multiple studies. Other education reform organizations have done studies that prove school choice improves the playing field for everyone, including public schools. And so we certainly cannot forget the public school system because, like you said, there are so many students that are still slipping through the cracks. But when you talk about taking on an entire system like the public schools, it's a little bit harder. And so, something like school choice raises the level of competition within those schools, right? Because if kids
Right.
are leaving the public school, another school, then it's an opportunity for those schools to focus on how to improve. And then also, school choice saves the taxpayers a lot of money across the country. We're talking millions of dollars. And so it's an all-around win for families, for students, for teachers, for educators, and for the taxpayer. And so if we can continue this conversation and continue to debunk some of these misconceptions and myths that the opposing side throws out, we'll be in great shape. And it's ultimately for the kids to have a higher quality of life and a better future.
Walter Blanks Jr. with us here this morning on WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. One of the things that's so important, I was a public school teacher for 25 years, and I have a principal certificate as well. Both my parents were public school teachers, so I have a little bit of experience with that, and I was also, came out of a public school system. But people ask me now in the changing face of education, Walter, what do you think that public schools need to do? I said, find out what private schools are doing and copy it. I said, go
Right.
take a look at what they're doing and copy it, because what they're doing is they're going to more choice. They're going to kind of things and various programs that I think are a little bit more effective. Whereas public schools, sometimes I look at it in our country and a general perception is that we're just kind of holding back failure with a chair and a whip, kind of like we do with a tiger sometimes in a show. Do you get that same feeling right now? About a minute left in this segment.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest issue with the public school system is that it is not customizable or flexible like all these other choices. Like
Great
Netflix,
point.
Hulu, you can pick what you want to watch based off of your own preference. And so I think that's a big thing that the public schools have to start doing is having that flexibility for parents and students.
Walter Blanks Jr. this morning, getting the voice of youth out there, too. And he is a guy who is with the American Federation for Children. As we talk about school choice,